got it.
Hey, folks, it's Steve and Matt, and we're here with our first episode of the new year.
Happy New Year,
2024,
Steve.
baby.
Happy New Year.
15 days late, but we don't care.
Yeah, whatever. It's all good.
Yeah, exactly. So it's Steve and Matt. Matt, how you been, man?
Been good. Been enjoying the holidays and catching up on stuff, and now we're getting right back into it. All our clients are back from break too, so we're starting to do some good work there. So yeah, I'm feeling good. How about you, Steve?
Feeling good. I'm feeling good too. You and I went fishing, and we
Oh,
caught
yeah, that was a
nothing.
lot of fun.
We got 0 bites, 0 fish. So, we're going to
Hey,
try again.
it's a beautiful day.
It was a beautiful day.
That's what matters.
When we talked all about this, which is our topic today. It's the top 10 OSHA citations from 2023. Yay! Now, I did watch a video. It came across my feed, and it was the top 10 citations. And I love this because California, I don't know if it's still the 5th largest economy in the world.
Last I checked, I believe it is. Yes.
Yeah, may have bumped up a little bit after.
Yeah,
COVID
you're right. I think it might have
wiped out
bumped
a
up.
bunch of stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah. So California is up there, and as we know, there are several states that don't participate in the federal program of OSHA, and California is one of those state-run OSHA programs. And you can say what you want about the state-run programs and the federal programs. I think, by and large, many of the regulations are very similar. They're basically, let's pull this over and slap our label on it, and we'll have our own enforcement unit with our own budget, and we'll do this and we'll do that.
Yep.
And
Yep.
For the most part, I think that works okay. I know there's a lot of times California says they're the leaders in things, and they're so far behind. We saw that with NFPA 70 in the
Right.
arc flash. I was doing that in Nebraska 10 years before it really even became a thing out here in Cali, at least for the clients. I mean, you can always put things on the books that don't really get enforced or are not really talked about, and that was one of them. But we're going to talk about the top 10 OSHA citations. We're going to break it down for you, federal and state. We're going to focus more on California here, and you're going to see some wide differences. And I think that's the biggest problem I have with Cal OSHA. Did you notice those, Matt?
Yeah. It's like complete. They're not even doing the same thing. Yeah, I mean, and I understand that Calcium in some areas, especially environmental, hazardous waste is a good example. They're very stringent. They have another level of regulation on those that federal doesn't currently apply for. But I also feel like there are times when Kalos is maybe a little bit too picky about the details, and really they will go after.
Picky about the wrong detail.
Yeah,
Picky about the wrong details. Yeah, definitely. And if you like to really learn more about all this stuff, because we do this podcast show, of course you can watch it on YouTube, but please subscribe. We're trying to get 50,000 subscribers this year, and that's a lot, and we need your help to do that, so I appreciate it. Hey, you know what? Click the little subscribe button. If you don't like it, you can always unsubscribe, but we need some help here to keep this thing going. But at any rate, when you look at this, it's the ticky-tack stuff, right?
Yes.
Like there's very serious things that go on in the work world that need to be addressed. And when you look at the citations that Cal OSHA gives, you go, it's a bunch of junk. And I feel, at least through my experience, and I know that the folks are out there, they're trying their best, they're doing hard work, they're trying to keep people safe, but a lot of times it's just like really, they're trying to find something, and it's not enough. And that was evident back when Fed said, hey, you guys write all these citations and none of them stick. So now only write citations that are going to stick. And that means that if you do write a citation for something serious, you got to really know your business. And a
Yeah.
lot of folks don't know their business. And I hesitate to say this because I don't want to be retaliated against for.
That would be illegal, Steve.
I know, but still, it's it happens. And again, I'm not trying to bash anybody, but I think there's some real issues out there. And then you see when they're pounding on the schools and they're pounding on this, and it's like, we got I got a big case coming up very soon in a week.
Mhm.
And I can't really talk about the details too much, but I can tell you this, that the school district was cited for they were cited for something that has nothing to do with their jurisdiction and
Right.
applies to everybody in the city based on where this location is. And it's like, so you're going to sit here and make a federal case out of, or, an act of Congress out of this thing, and it's not even within your jurisdiction. And it's that kind of stuff. And then you're beating up the school and you keep coming after, like, come on. So let's jump into these, Matt, and we'll show
Okay.
our viewers the difference. Our first one, ranked number 10, federal level, is machine guarding. In California is eye washes.
I
So
wash.
yeah. So machine guarding, very important. There's a lot of machines out there. We know that people try to work without guards. Typically, table
Right.
saws, circular saws, jigsaws, all these little things. But I think really where this comes in, especially on the federal level, are some of the larger manufacturing equipment. You there's just a lot of things that need to be guarded, and it's hard to put a guard on everything. So
Right.
doing it reasonably, within the height limit of your users, where people can get into those things. I mean, we see this with some of our clients. Short of just putting up a fence all around the machine itself, it's
Right.
like,
Right. Right.
this thing was built in 1903, like, this is a real challenge. This is the last manufacturing of its type in the United States. How do we deal with this?
Right.
What's funny to me is if you look at rank 10 eye wash stations and emergency showers for Cal OSHA, that's quite a bit different. And again, I
Yeah.
think that's one of those areas that constantly fail. I mean, we are constantly seeing failures on eye wash stations, shower stations, these types of things. I think the decontamination portion of it, especially when you get into hazardous waste and those things, is very important. So what can you do on these? Well, you have to do your inspections on a monthly basis. I mean, we just did one.
That's the big part.
Yep, we just did one
That's the big part.
brand new. Pull down the lever, spray
Yep.
pattern. The nozzles clogged. The guy didn't take out the little cap that came with the fitting. So
Right.
it's simple things like that, but they make a big difference. I think eye wash stations is pretty good, but it's pretty low on the types of responses when we look at some of these others.
Right. And if I looked at this list and I thought, well, this citation is because an actual incident happened and they failed, then I would say, well, that's extremely serious. But I suspect that it's mostly what you're talking about, Steve, which is they're coming in, they're doing the check, and they're saying, oh, the water isn't the right temperature. Oh, the eye cap is missing on one of the faucets. It it's little things like that.
Right.
That
Dirty,
that
debris in the
yeah,
sink,
yeah,
flow rate's not right.
yeah,
You know,
label's not there.
right.
Yeah, those I suspect without, and I admit I haven't seen a extensive, comprehensive list of these citations, so maybe I'm wrong. But I suspect that these are the kinds of little picky things we're talking about.
Yeah, our ticky tack.
Ticky tack, yes.
um, if we take a look at this, ranked number 9, and I think this is where the real discrepancy starts to come in. Right at number 9, when you look at federal versus Cal OSHA. So federal is the PPE and
Right.
Cal OSHA is ladders. And if we look at federal, ladders is number 3, right?
Yes.
And so why would that be? And you know what? We just did a phenomenal ladder safety training with accident investigation as part of it. See, I try and bring this up real quick, Matt, so I can
Sure.
show some of our viewers in case they're not following us on on all of our social media. But let me find this.
Show them during the investigation where we've got
Yeah,
an individual on the ground by a ladder and all
right.
that good stuff.
Yeah, here we go. So this is part of our accident investigation course, and we set up. No one fell, so don't
Yeah.
freak out.
Yeah.
But we set up some of our uh, scenarios, and we put ladders in different ways. We have people positioned in different ways. We show some different types of incidents that may have occurred. And the idea here is to go through and do the investigation and determine, based on the fact patterns, where people are laying, which way things fell, these kinds of things, how that individual ended up that way. Now, we know that falls are one of the leading causes of workplace death. And we
Yes.
know working at heights is very serious. And ladders put you at both of those.
Yes.
So why is it number 9? Why is the ranking number 9? And again, for Cal OSHA, and I think that's because, once again, it's trying to find things that they can cite on that can stick,
Yeah.
that are within their level of expertise. And it's very easy to go out and see a ladder that's not 3 feet above its
Yeah.
contact
But the
point,
support point.
right?
Right.
It doesn't have the proper labels.
Yeah.
It hasn't been inspected. Ladders are, I mean, we do ladder inspections for our clients.
Yeah.
Like every 2 months, we go out and we inspect ladders, especially when they're on maintenance trucks or they're used on a routine basis, because little things end up causing big time accidents.
Yep.
And that's a really good one. As far as PPE, I think that is one that could be cited so frequently and so often.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's forgetting the PPE, not wearing it properly, not having the training to use the PPE. There are so many. I mean, something as simple as, oh, this PPE expired
Yeah,
last month.
right. Or
It,
or here's a big one that a lot of our guys do. They'll take a box of latex gloves, they'll throw it on the dash of their maintenance truck, and it'll sit in the sun and it'll disintegrate, and it's not stored properly. I think PPE just covers so much. It covers boots, aprons, gloves,
wrong.
eye protection, it in some form or fashion. What the respiratory protection, but that's got its own standard. And then you got hearing protection, right? So there's just a lot there that
Yeah.
people, want to forego, and it's very serious. And we
Yeah.
always say when we talk about fault versus responsibility, like, there's no way I'm getting this on my face before the 900 feet per second
Right.
piece of debris flies
Yeah.
in my eye. So,
Yeah. Especially after you took off the machine guard as well in
right.
violation of number 10.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, don't forget, subscribe. We're going to give you all kinds of great tips here. All right. Well, let's go on to our next one, Matt. This is a good one. Hazard communication for California, fall protection training for federal. And again, we have fall protection training. Again, the training component of fall protection, very important here, and
Yes.
it doesn't get done a lot. And you know what? I mean, we just did some fall protection training. We got fall protection training on our Dollar Training Club. If you want to check that out, feel free to take that. I mean, all these things we have courses on Dollar Training Club or Udemy. So definitely
Yeah.
check those out. Please take those. But fall protection, I mean, how many times do we see the harnesses are expired, are
Like
way past date?
it's it's more to the point where I'm surprised when we actually see that they are all in code, ready to go, in good shape, and not expired.
Yeah.
It's if I see if I we go to a client and we see 90, it feels like 90-95% of the time, at least one, if not all, of their harness equipment will be expired.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got into a, a philosophical argument. I want to make
Okay.
that clear. It wasn't like a argument. It was a
Right.
philosophical argument
A
in
discussion.
a discussion. Yeah, someone took
Yeah.
our course, and in our course we talk about the 5-year time frame, and that the manufacturers typically, most manufacturers typically recommend that the harness be replaced after 5 years, and we refer to that as the expiration date. It's a
Yeah.
useful life. It's just like anything. Um, and someone was arguing a counterpoint, which was that there is no expiration date on harnesses and this and that. And we see you gotta look at the manufacturer's recommendations. Yes, there is no expiration printed on the harness itself. It's the date of manufacture, and you got to extrapolate from that point.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of folks make the miss. If you look at a harness that is in use on a routine basis, not something like you and I use where we use it when we do training, we use it when we're doing safety monitoring, but we're not on a construction site every
Yeah.
day,
Every day.
doing the
Right.
actual work for 8 hours. We're in training mode. We're demonstrating, we're observing, we have very little contact stress with the harness. If you look at someone that's out there working every day, those harnesses that have been in use for 5 years, they're frayed. They have abrasions. They have face abrasions, side cuts. They have damage to the carabiners because they've been
Yep.
drug along the asphalt.
Yep.
Reminds me of that movie, dragged on. What is dragged on concrete? Dragged. What is it? You know
Don't
it?
know.
You never saw it,
You lost me. Yeah, I don't
really?
know.
Well, anyway, if you're throwing your harness in the back of your truck and it's getting weathered with rain damage and UV damage, all of that plays into this. So don't forego. If we look at these citations again, we got ASCOM on California for number 8, fall protection training on federal. Fall protection training leads to working at heights and falls, which is
Yep.
why it's number 8, and you're going to see it come up again in a larger context. But Cal OSHA, we're in hazard communication territory. It's down at number 8. Hazard communication is a very serious topic. It's, we're looking at all of the acute and chronic exposures that an individual may have over the course of a working career, and
Yeah.
chemicals play a big one.
Yeah.
We just look at the case in San Francisco with Roundup and the custodian there.
Right.
You look at all of the different things that are being utilized. And in California, we go to um, even the pesticides, pesticide handler. Those are all chemical based that we're using. And then we look at the alcohols, which we have to even train teachers on how to use those little alcohol sanitizers as pesticides when they're actually doing a cleaning, versus the alcohol sanitizers that you put on your hand, which is governed by the EPA and doesn't fall under that. And so you would think,
Right.
ASCOM, we look at those, they're constantly updating the SDS. The training is complicated. The inventory of safety data sheets and the distribution of safety data sheets is cumbersome, to say the least. And
Yes.
so we have a great program. Actually, we have a unique safety data sheet management system, which I
Yep.
believe far exceeds anything that you'll see out there. We have a couple features in ours that really are revolutionary to the management of safety data sheets. And
Yep.
if you're interested, take a look at it, and contact us. We'll be happy to demonstrate it for you. But I really like the features that we built in based on our clients' needs
Yep.
and what we like to see. And it's got to do with the identification of the chemicals. But that HAZCOM has always been in the top 3
Yeah.
citations for OSHA for generally federal and California for the past 20 years. I mean, even going back to like 1997, as I can remember, it was always been in the top 3 because
Right.
it's such an easy thing to find problems with.
Right.
Labeling, they container. I mean, just on and on and on. And you like HAZCOM, don't you,
Pascal.
man?
It's it's so there are so many elements that you can get caught on with Hascom between how the program is run, and I'm talking about what resources we have online, the safety data sheets, keeping on top of that, how that is working, and then there's your inventory, your labeling, how are the chemicals stored, is that in place? And then there's the usage. You mentioned the day containers. Are they using it correctly? Are they actually, when they employees, are they reading the safety data sheets before they utilize those chemicals? Are they using the proper PPE? You can get them both. They didn't read the safety. They didn't have the safety data sheets. So they didn't know what PPE are. So you get a citation for PPE and you get a citation for HAZCOM.
Right. Yeah, it's a mess, man. It's a
Yeah.
mess. And you don't realize how many chemicals you have in the workplace until you start cataloging them.
Yep.
And that's a real tough problem. So I like our software. It's easy to search. It's got great features, all that. Looking at number 7, respiratory protection and fire extinguishers in California. Fire extinguishers. I mean, how can you cite on the fire extinguisher? That's what's so funny to me is this is in the top 10. Are you nuts? Are you nuts? Okay, I'm sorry. I should let you handle this one, Matt, but I'm just going to say our fire prevention in California has gone roughshod over everybody and everything, from sprinklers in your home to all this stuff. You got fire extinguishers everywhere. But then Cal OSHA comes in and says, if you haven't been trained, you can't use it. Right. So if you want to avoid the citations, just don't have people use them. But then your building's burned down and we have environmental destruction and everything else. It's a ridiculous thing, I think, and it's so, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, of all, I can count on one hand the time that fire extinguisher has been used by our clients. You know, most of the time fires don't break out because the prevention is so good these days.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's why we see our firefighters in Costco shopping. I still get a little funny about that. I'm like, we're paying them to shop and sleep
In the
and
shop.
barbecue and play on our sports field. I mean, we see when we go over to one of our clients, they're always playing soccer with their fire truck parked on the soccer field. Really? Okay. All right. I say no more because I think I'm going to get retaliated against quite a bit here.
Yeah, that might be the case. It just, and the funny thing with fire extinguishers, is, like you said, Steve, what exactly are they being cited on? Is it just, hey, they're walking on to the site and they're maybe they're finding that, oh, there's an area that doesn't have a fire extinguisher that's
Yeah,
75 feet away. It's
it's
100 feet away.
yeah, it's 75 feet of travel distance. It's posted at the right height. It's not on the right hanger. You know,
Yep.
someone has slightly used it and it doesn't have a zip tie tag on it any longer, these types of things.
Yep.
I think the big thing on the fire extinguisher, you got to fight those. You got to fight these citations with California. I think a lot of people just kind of roll over on them. You want to talk about respiratory protection, because that seems very serious.
Yeah. Yeah. The very important thing to remember about respiratory is when you need to wear respirators, it's because you are in a hazardous atmosphere. There
Yes.
is there is you have the potential for exposure to very serious chemicals. Maybe it's hydrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide, or you're even doing something more serious where you are literally in a environment where if you take your respirator off, you're going to die. And it's so important to ensure because when you're in there, usually we're talking about areas where you're not easily able to escape that. Maybe you're not even able to escape. You would actually have to be pulled out for that escape to happen. I'm thinking of confined spaces,
Right.
for instance, right?
Absolutely.
It's if you don't know how to use your respirator or your respirator fails, or you are going to suffer serious injury or you're going to die. And that's what's going to happen. And it makes sense to me. And there's a lot of work, especially our public works, they do a lot of work in a lot of industries that do a lot of work in hazardous atmospheres. It makes sense to me that the federal OSHA is going to ensure that those programs are on point
Right.
because a failure of labeling on Hascom, chances are just means that you used an issue, you used a wrong chemical on something. It didn't lead to anything. It just ruined maybe a wall or something. You have something wrong with respirators, then you're talking about actual casualties. You're talking about incidents where people lose their lives.
Right.
And that makes sense to me. You're going to be tough and stringent on that.
Yeah, I agree. It's a big one, and it's up there. It's number 7, and we know that for feds, this was the leading cause was in auto body repair and auto repair shops themselves,
Mm-hmm.
auto service shops. So lots of chemicals there. We know that every time we go out to a garage, we find hundreds, if not 1,000 chemicals. You got brake fluids, brake fluid, brake fluid. Why do you got 17 brake fluids? We
Right.
like this one. Well, brake cleaner, carb cleaner, some solvent, all kind paints. It's just,
Yep.
there's a lot there, and the cumulative buildup of those things is very important. Number 6, federal lockout, tagout, California lockout, tagout. Finally, getting into some serious stuff. We get serious they got serious on 2, number 8 and number 6 so far, and then the rest is all a bunch of hooey on California.
It is. It is.
Lockout, tag out, this is where you lose limbs, you get chopped up, you get electrocuted, you die, all those
Yeah.
great things that happen to you. It is lockout, tag out. It's not take out. It is not anything else. It's lockout, tag out. And in California, we say lockout, tag out, block out. And this is important. I think the big thing here is making sure that you have the right locks, that only have one key, that everyone's assigned a lock, that you do the training, and that you have the procedures. And this step is always missed. It's something that we do for our clients. We go through, we just did a big one for a very small city in Northern California. It took us 2 days. A lot of times people are doing these for months on end. It doesn't need to be that way.
Yep.
You can do these quickly, but even realize in a smaller city, you have a ton of equipment, and you need to
Yes.
go through, identify each piece of equipment, take pictures of the startup and shutdown procedures, all the energization points, where the locks are, where the points are to lock it out or tag it out or block it out, all those things that go along with it. And
Yep.
we really, I mean, we move pretty quickly when we do those, but it's a long process, and you got to write the
Yeah.
procedures. You got to put those procedures where people can find them. It's another piece of our software that is really good. Oh,
Yeah.
it's another piece of our software that's very good. And we have those procedures. You can click that you locked out a machine. It'll track the time that is locked out. People can see that it's locked out, show you the procedures for each piece, walk you through the whole thing. It's great. Check it out. If you have questions, we'll be happy to do that. And then we get into, again, another very serious, a lot of people have these machines, powered
Yep.
industrial trucks. That's the forklifts. California goes reporting injuries, reporting
Reporting
injuries.
injuries. Yeah. Not the injuries themselves, Steve. The reporting of the
Yeah,
injuries.
you know
They've
why? Because
cited that's
they get $5,000 for a late report, and it's
yep.
almost impossible to get that to go away. And that was the major citation that the feds say, you keep citing this and you don't make it stick. You keep discounting, you can't discount it.
Yeah.
And so I'm telling you, if you have an incident, if the fire department responds, they're going to report it. If the ambulance responds, they're going to report it, and you're going to get cited for not reporting. The fastest, easiest thing to do is report the incident.
Yeah.
And then be done with it. You're not going to get away with it. So
Yeah, that's that's the thought process, Steve. Oh, they're not going to come after us. They're not going to know about it. Nobody's going to know. No, they're going to know.
it's
Just
the
report.
easiest thing to do. Failure to
Yeah.
report. Pay me $5,000. $5,000. Pay it up.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's where I when I start talking about these things, it's so frustrating because there's so many serious things that are out there that we need to be looking at, and it seems like a money grab to me.
Yeah.
So powered industrial trucks, that's our forklifts. Training's a big one. You got to get the training, and they really say that the big issue is the refresher training and the evaluations. You got to have a process to do that. You got to do the evaluations. Refresher training, it's a misnomer. You don't have to do it every 3 years unless there's 5 elements. If those 5 elements are met, there was an accident, you got new equipment, unsafe driving conditions, and then there's 2 more. None of these are really ever met unless you have big forklift operations like in a warehouse, these types of things. But generally, you're not, public agencies aren't getting new equipment all the time, so
No.
that doesn't meet. Unsafe driving, I find that we don't get a lot of that in public agencies. So the refresher training, not really necessary, but the evaluation is, and you got to do that.
Yeah.
And then here we get into scaffolding. Matt, where's scaffolding? Scaffolding. Yes. I'm just going to go 4, 3, 2, 1 on federal.
Sure.
Scaffolding, ladders, HAZCOM, fall protection. 3 of the 4 go together. What do you think that is?
That would be the fact that the human body and gravity don't particularly mix too well. We happen to suffer from an attack of gravity. Chances are we are going to not make it.
Right.
It's we're construction, general industry. We got all sorts of industries that constantly have workers working at heights, whether they're on ladders, they're on scaffolding, they're on the sides of buildings attached to harnesses. They're working on a framework, constructing a building. These are the types of situations where if you're not very careful, one small misstep, you didn't properly hook your carabiner up, you didn't set that ratio of 4-to-1 on your ladder, you didn't inspect your scaffolding, and one side of it broke and you pitched out. These lead to serious incidents, and these are the kinds of this is why OSHA exists.
Yep.
It exists to protect workers from these potential issues that maybe in most companies, I think most companies have it in their heart. They care for their workers.
Yeah,
they
do.
want that, but
don't
there
ever
are
think
plenty.
that. Don't ever think that your employer doesn't care about you. They
Yeah.
do. And at the very least, they don't want you injured or dead for a very simple fact. You
Yeah.
are a resource to them. They put time, effort, and training into you. You have skills, you have knowledge. All that matters. And if you get injured and they got to start all over, it's a lose-lose proposition.
Yeah.
Employer, and that's like very, what would I say? Transactional
Yeah.
from that standpoint. I can tell
Yeah.
you, everyone that we work with are private and public, from supervisors down to business owners. I haven't talked to any of them that go, I don't care.
Right.
Just put
Me
something on
neither.
paper.
Me neither.
Never.
They're all people who care. They care about their workers. They care about their people. The thing is this is in place though because yeah, it's not every company is making the right decision.
Well, not
Maybe it's
every company has all the money, or
yeah,
they assume things like, our guys would be smart, they'd let me know when they need things, and those things don't always happen because you get this back and forth and kind of fear-based stuff, I'd say.
right. Yeah, exactly. So it, we know that the reason that OSHA is out there is basically to ensure that yeah, they understand that companies are trying to get particular jobs done in any way that they can. And a lot of the time, there is just a wealth of things that need to be done, and things fall through the cracks. So the way that OSHA stays on top of it is ensuring that hey, we're here to make sure that you are covering these things, that your workers are safe on the job site, that you don't have any issues like these.
Right.
So it makes sense to me. I look at, well, these are all items, these top four are items that can be very serious. Again, we mentioned that the HASCOM, of course, which isn't fall related, but is a very broad subject matter, can also be one where it's not a big deal. It's not something that they're citing you because of a serious incident. That said, if you're working with chemicals,
You got a serious incident
that
on your hand, buddy.
yeah, that could be serious. So all four of those are the
Well,
kinds
they
I would
all
expect to
lead
find.
they all lead to the number one killer in the workplace, which is falls. And
Yes.
it's working at, it's funny. They cite, for federal, number three, ladders, but the biggest portion of the scaffolding that is cited is failure to provide steps or a ladder to the second or third, fourth, fifth, to the next level up of your scaffolding. So it's interesting. Again, a lot of these things come to falls.
Right.
ASCOM, you know, there's chemicals everywhere. It's just a bear, but really the leading is the falls. And if you look at what federal is citing, that means that they're inspecting those, that they've had issues around there. They're evaluating the programs, they're evaluating the training, and they're evaluating the equipment and the how it's set up. And that means that these are the very serious things. So you look at ranks on the federal side, 1 through 10, and they're all very serious issues that make
Yep.
a big impact on death and what we would call immediate danger to life and health. You look at California, and we haven't covered this. 4, 3, 2, 1. COVID-19. COVID-19.
Yeah. COVID-19.
IAPP construction, IAPP general industry, heat illness. Okay, so what's that tell you? That tells you that while California is looking at some of these other issues, the places that they make the citations stick are in the policies. They're in the
Yes.
written programs. And the biggest one is always IAPP. They cite IAPP every time. They cite heat illness every time. Regardless of what you get, an injury or a report for a violation of,
Right.
they're going to ask for your IAPP and they're going to ask for your heat illness program. What does heat illness have to do with any of it? It has to do with, in California, We're still not getting our heat related injuries and deaths down. I think we're at 200 a year
Right.
still. Kalos is very serious on that. And, for political reasons, COVID, COVID.
Yeah.
So that being said, you can see all these things are serious. The big things are the falls. Those are where the big problems are going to happen. That's what's going to kick off a lot of your investigations. If you're in California, you have to get your written programs proper, and you have to appeal and fight every citation. One of the biggest things, and you can read our blog post on it, is the logic behind the IAPP. And I'm just going to throw this out there for any defense attorney that's working, or person that's going to appeal their OSHA, Cal OSHA citation. They always cite on an ineffective IAPP, meaning that whatever you have written didn't work. And they usually cite that
if there's a citation, they automatically
they cite that ineffective.
If you have any other citation, then you automatically click number 1 for IAPP because it didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work. and it's like, well, how do you make it work? You never have an incident? That's not the case. The big thing on the IAPP where people get tricked up is there's a couple. First is that you say you're going to do audits or safety inspections or walkthroughs of your facilities on an annual basis. You don't do it. Okay? There's nothing that says that you have to do it annually, biannually, triannually, or once every 10 years. It says periodic inspection. So you set the time frame, set it for something you're actually going to do. Okay. Yep. Second thing is the accident investigation. Nothing in Cal OSHA, Labor Code, Cal OSHA says that you have to do a written accident investigation. You got to do an accident investigation. You can talk to someone, you can look at it, you can do whatever you want. Just document that you did it. That's all you got to do. Okay.
Yep.
Nothing says that you have to list out your findings. You list out all these crazy findings and you get cited there as well. So you get these overzealous individuals that don't really understand safety, and they make some really, what would you call that, extrapolated solutions to the problems. And and then when you hand that over, you've done nothing with it, and so therefore you get this citation. The last thing is the training and this and that. So here is the logic. Okay, you ready for this? This right here is worth a $10,000 consulting fee. Okay, I'm just telling you. This is, and we win on this all the time. The Injury Illness Prevention Program says the standard requires that you have a section on enforcement or compliance, meaning what you're going to do if someone doesn't follow the rules, or if you find that these things aren't working, and what you're going to do if they do. So I'm going to reward my employees by giving them a slap on the back saying good job. Or if you violate the policies, I'm going to discipline you according to our disciplinary procedures. And then it says you have to have training in these things when these things occur. New procedures. People do something unsafe. They do this, they do that. So what they're saying when they say people don't follow the rules, they act unsafely, there's a failure in the equipment, all of these things, is that accidents happen. People are going to do things. They're literally telling you that you can do the best that you can do, but it can still be ineffective when these things occur. Or not ineffective, but that's the way that it works. Right? They're saying this is life. This is reality. Is that what they're saying, Matt?
It just, my thinking on the IPP is that the point of it is to have a process in place.
Right.
It's not to remove all possibility of citations
Right.
or safety issues or violations that, like you said, those are going to happen. Accidents are going to happen. People are going to make mistakes. It happens, but you need to have a process in place to deal with how that happens, and then a process to work to prevent it and to
Right.
fix it and
Exactly.
address it. That's the point of the IPP.
Yep.
Now, if that process isn't in place, I understand. Yes, cite them for that. But if the process is in place and just an accident happened, it shouldn't be an IAPP citation. It should be
Well, right.
specific to that safety issue
Yeah,
that
it's
occurred.
not about an ineffective IAPP. I can tell you that
Yeah.
because again, it says that you're going to discipline somebody,
Right.
right?
Right.
You're going to do the accident investigation. If the IAPP were truly ineffective, you wouldn't even need to do an accident investigation.
Right.
I'm sorry, I said that incorrectly. If the
Say it again.
IAPP were effective in all manners, there would be no accident investigation because an
Right.
accident would never happen. By the mere
Right.
fact that you're saying that you have to do an accident investigation means that there's going to be this process. And so
Yes.
they love to cite ineffective. You have to push back. You have to use our logic tree and defend every citation that comes down on this, because if not, you're just paying money, paying money, paying money,
Yep.
paying money, paying money. And the problem with that is then you develop a history, don't get any discounts on history. There's a whole we should talk about that at some point. But
Right.
I just want to show this once again. If you look at California and you look at federal, you have to understand that California going after the very easy stuff.
No.
It's easy. They got to put money in their budget. They need to get out and do more inspections. Several years ago, they hired 30 something, I think it was 32 new inspectors,
Right.
training regimens, all that kind of stuff. I've been asked to shut up and to
You?
by the
No.
judge and not talk anymore, not point. I mean, we had one of our clients cited on heat illness, and for not carrying shade, not carrying enough water, this, that, and everything else, and it was complete and utter
Right.
hockey.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there were pictures of the inspector with no water, no shade structure, no nothing, walking the same trail that they were going to be out there for like 4 hours in the immediate heat. The best part was their picture of how they took temperature, which was a complete violation of their own policy. And so when I started pointing this out, the judge said, stop telling us what our inspector has done. It's like this is so serious, then your inspector should be trained too, right? Like one of the things that they cite on the IAPP a lot is that the plan doesn't cover every specific location that you may or may not work in. Well, how do you do that? And so when you flip that back, on the Cal OSHA inspectors, then they need to have a written plan for every square inch of California because they can go anywhere, right? And so when you start pointing these things out, it becomes absurd, ludicrous, inappropriate, and impossible
Yeah.
for employers to do this, especially when you're doing outdoor work like trail maintenance and forest work and these things. You don't always know every little detail of where you're going to be asked to go, and in order to map it, you got to go see it, right? So but just understand what Cal OSHA is looking for. Those are the citations. Get your written programs in order. Please feel free to reach out to Matt or myself. We'll be happy to do that for you guys and gals that are out there. Matt and I are trying not to say guys all the time anymore. We got a bunch of those things that we got to work on, right, Matt? Well, I've had enough of this one. I don't know about you. Don't forget to check out all of our wonderful courses on Udemy and Dollar Training Club. We love Dollar Training Club. That's our platform. We have our software Ask Joy, which you can ask it anything and it's going to tell you some answers. So we'll see you on the next episode of the Risk Control Show. Don't forget to hit the subscribe right now. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it.
Yeah, folks.
Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it.